have everybody here. Hopefully, if others come, they can get in. Welcome to our webinar. I'm super excited to have you here tonight. We'll just get right into it here. So tonight's seminar or webinar, I guess, we're going to have just go over a brief introduction about my company and who we are and what we do. We're going to talk about the typical dugout problems, and then we'll go into the solutions as well. We're going to have a look at some of the work that we've done in the past, and then if you would like to send me an email to info@cleanwaterpro.ca, I would be more than happy to send you a copy of our free Ultimate Dugout Guide. It's a really, really comprehensive guide that I think you'll find very useful. It goes in a lot deeper than what we're going to talk about tonight during the webinar. Okay, so let's get started here. Oops, there we go. So that's me on the top upper left. I'm the owner of Clean Water Pro, and we're based in Carman, Manitoba. Sorry, I'm just letting a few more people into the meeting here. To the right of my picture, there's a picture of our storefront. We're located on the main drag, and we have a little bit of a retail store at the front of our office. And to the right, you can see some of the products that we sell from there. In the back, we have our offices, and the technicians have their space there. You may not know, or maybe you do, we actually have a corporate side to our company as well. We're a environmental water remediation company. So on the lower left, you can see just a few of our staff members, they're not all there, with our boat and one of our trucks. So we work on all types of water bodies, including storm retention ponds, lakes, lagoons, and so on. And our clients include municipalities, fisheries, lake committees, campgrounds, and really any body of water that has a problem with it. We can help improve that body of water. Oh, I don't know why my slide's not going. Just one sec. So on this next slide, you'll see three pictures in the center. We're very much a science-based company. When we're hired to help with a body of water, it usually starts with an assessment. We go out to look at what's happening in that body of water. So there's a few pictures of our staff doing some of the testing. When we know exactly what's happening in the body of water, then we can better recommend and treat that body. We have extensive liability insurance. It's cost us thousands of dollars to have that liability insurance, and to do that, we had to prove that we're practicing our due diligence and we are safely treating the water. And at the bottom there, you'll see a Safe Work Certified logo. We're super proud of that logo. We've achieved that status of being a Safe Work company, so our employees are safe, and we practice all, we've gone above and beyond to keep everybody safe and send them home at the end of the day. Okay. Sorry about that. The slides aren't going very fast. Now, I would imagine most of you have a dugout and would relate to one of these categories. On the left, you'll see a dugout that is used for recreation, such as trout fishing, also swimming and paddling. On the pond on the top right is used for irrigating gardens, and the water is used in the home for showering or for flushing toilets. And on the lower right is a farm dugout for cattle, where the cattle are actually permitted to access the water. So it's really torn up the riparian zone, and it's pretty rough on the water there. Okay, although the uses of the dugouts are all different, they all succumb to the same problem. And that's what I'm going to talk about here. On the upper left-hand side, you'll see submerged weeds that have actually grown up through to the surface and are peeking out. Submerged weeds are usually a result of heavy muck accumulation on the bottom of the dugout. On the right-hand side, you'll see algae, or more precisely blue-green algae, which we'll talk about more in depth in a little bit. On the lower left corner, it may look like algae, but actually it's duckweed, and it's a floating aquatic weed. And finally, the last issue that we see with many bodies of water is the nutrient load. In the middle photo, you'll see a vial with some blue liquid in it. And this is just one of our water tests that we do. We put the reagent in the vial and then add some pond water. And this particular one is for phosphorus. And if there's a high amount of phosphorus in there, the water turns blue. And then we have a little machine that reads how much phosphorus is in there, so we know what's in there. So we test for all types of nutrients, whether it's phosphorus, pH, ammonia, nitrites. We look at the algae species in there and so on. Okay. So algae, I'm sure most of you are very familiar with it, but what you may not realize, or you might be interested in knowing, there are several species of algae, and they come in a multitude of colors, which I think is really kind of cool. On the left-hand side, you're looking at black algae, and there's a little bit of string algae, the green stuff at the top there, but the majority of that is the black algae. On the right-hand side, you might be thinking, hey, that looks like red paint, but it's not. It's red algae. This is a storm retention pond, and when the pond began to bloom, the residents around it, they start to kind of freak out a little bit, and they called the RM, and they said, what's going on? Somebody dumped paint on the pond, and so on. But actually, it was a red algae bloom. So I think it looks kind of cool, actually. And then the three smaller pictures, left to right on the bottom there, the first one is blue-green algae. And by the way, that is the bluest algae I've ever seen. It was pretty neat looking. The middle one is string algae, and then the last one is just green algae. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the blue-green algae. It's also known as cyanobacteria. And when it's present in the water, caution really should be taken, as there may be microcysts or toxins associated with it, and it can be very detrimental. Livestock, pets, or even people, if they ingest it, they could die from it because it hurts your liver and other functions in your body. That's why the government posts warnings at beaches. If they found the levels of blue-green are too high in the water, then they post those warnings at several of the water bodies throughout the province. Okay, so this one here is submerged aquatic weeds. And on the left, you can see through the water that they're pretty thick there. Now, what you need to understand that the weeds are usually a result of increased muck accumulation on the bottom of the water body. And so in the center is one of our technicians. He's going out to measure the muck and to see the consistency and things like that. And on the right, the two technicians are gathering the different species of aquatic weeds and identifying them. We want to know what species they are, how aggressive they are, and if they're invasive or not. Oop. So this one here, for some of you, you may or may not have this on your pond, and this is duckweed. It is very similar. A lot of people confuse it with algae because from a distance, it really does look like algae. But if you get it closer to it and scoop it up into your hand, you can actually see that it's a little tiny leaf that floats on the top of the water, and it's super prolific. It can fill that pond, and it feels like overnight it'll just fill it right up. It's a very difficult plant to manage, and it takes a lot of treatment to get it under control. Okay, so this slide here is really the core problem of most water bodies. There's really not enough dissolved oxygen in the majority of ponds and dugouts because there's a buildup of organics in there, and it's utilizing all the oxygen that might be in that water. On the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, it shows a tool that we use to measure the dissolved oxygen in the water. And the picture on the right, the graphics show what happens when there's no aeration. You might be familiar with a thermocline, as it's, sometimes when you're swimming and it's cold on the bottom and warm on the top, this is an invisible barrier that doesn't allow the gases to escape from the bottom, nor does it allow the dissolved oxygen to enter from the top. And this results in anoxic conditions, particularly at the bottom, and that adds to the accumulation of the muck and unhealthy conditions for fish and other aquatic species. Okay, so now we've covered some of the main problems associated with dugouts. I'd like to talk a little more about the solutions to improve those conditions. Some of the typical treatments that we recommend, and depends on the treatment plan depends on the type of problems you're experiencing, the size of dugout, and the outcomes that you desire. All of these treatments that you see here are environmentally safe, and they're legal to use in Canada. They're all listed on the domestic substance list. The pond clear is a beneficial bacteria that works to reduce the nutrients in the water column. Muck away, the next one over, is a pelleted form of beneficial bacteria that eats the muck at the bottom of the dugout, and you can target just the area that you want to see the reduction in. So if you feel that you don't have any muck in the center, it's too deep, and you just have the perimeter, you can just treat that area. Where you put it is where it works. The next one over is EcoBoost. It's a fantastic product, and I kind of call it my secret solution to a lot of troubled ponds, especially if they have high phosphorus in them. The EcoBoost will bind that phosphorus, and it helps the bacteria to do its job. So it's a really good product. Pond Eye, a lot of people use Pond Eye. It's like putting sunglasses on the pond, really. It shades it from the sun's UV, and the plants and the algae need sunlight to grow. So this helps to slow that down. However, it's best used in combination with the bacteria because on its own, it only can do so much. As I mentioned earlier, most ponds are troubled due to the lack of oxygen. Therefore, aeration is a great solution, and there's a couple of options I'd like to talk about. The graphic on the left shows a floating fountain that is, sometimes it's used for aeration. It can be very effective, but a lot of times it's placed in a pond that's too deep, and it can't fully aerate the entire pond. Fountains are very beautiful, but if you truly want to aerate the body of water, you're probably better to look at the next graphic over, which shows an aerated and a non-aerated pond. On the left, it shows that if it's a non-aerated pond, you'll probably have odor, there might be algae in there, your nutrients are higher, you have a thermocline, so the bottom is more anoxic, and you have a muck accumulation. On the right, it shows the fine bubble subsurface aeration, where the diffuser plate is put right at the bottom, and its design will entrain that water right from that mud water interface at the bottom. It brings that up along with the gases in the water, and then once it reaches the surface, it brings in more dissolved oxygen, and that's recirculated right back down to the bottom, so that that water column is oxygenated from top to bottom, and you don't have that thermocline there anymore. And by doing so, it just speeds up all those natural processes in the water, which makes it much more healthier for all the fish and invertebrate that are in there. And it helps to keep the nutrient level a little bit lower so that the algae is kind of held at bay. Okay. So these are just some pictures of some fountains on the left-hand side. As I said before, they're really quite beautiful to look at, and you can put lights on them. They look really awesome at night as well. And then on the right and the center there, that's the fine bubble aeration. Now, why fine bubble? There's fine bubble or there's coarse bubble, but fine bubble is much more efficient in oxygen transfer, meaning that for the same amount of CFM, you get like 6 or 8 times more dissolved oxygen in there as you would with other systems. So it's very efficient. Okay, so I want to just touch on some of the projects that we've done on our corporate side of the business. This here is a couple of different lakes that we have fine bubble aeration in there, and it keeps the water open over the winter months, which helps to oxygenate that water and create mixing. And the reason we do that is to overwinter fish. So it's an important part of the lakes that depend on fishing as part of their economy. This one here is the acidity retention pond, and as you can see, it does have a fountain in there, but the nutrient level was just so high that it began to have it started to have an algal bloom. So we treated it with some bacteria and kind of got it back on track. This one here is it's a city retention pond, and this one had duckweed in it. So the duckweed, as I mentioned before, is very difficult to get it under control, but with the proper treatment with bacteria and lots of aeration in there, you can get it back in check. It just takes a long time. This particular pond took a good 1.5 years to get it in decent shape. This next one here is of a couple of community ponds. The one on the left is in Plum Coulee, Manitoba. It's a 4-acre pond, and back in, I think it was about 2014, they were having troubles with it. Nobody wanted to swim in it. The water was kind of not so nice. And so they engaged our company, and we put in aeration and some treatments in there. And now, you know, they said they have no complaints. Their campground is full. There's people on that beach all summer long, sometimes up to 250 people. So they're super happy with the results there. And the photos on the right is Reston, Manitoba. Now Reston there was a slough basically that they dredged out, and they relined it with some geotextile and some gravel and filled it up with the water, and it's just absolutely beautiful. We have aeration in there. We also have the fountain for looks, and then the bacteria to keep the algae under control. So both projects are really quite beautiful, and we have other ones throughout the province that we've helped with as well. So just in summary, we chatted about who we are and what we do at Clean Water Pro. And we touched on the different problems that most bodies of water have and the solutions to take care of those problems. And then, of course, we talked about some of the projects that we've done in the past, which we're really proud of. So if you are interested, please send me an email to info@cleanwaterpro.ca, and I'd be more than happy to send you a copy of that the Dugout Ultimate Guide. It's got a lot of great information in there, and I think you will really enjoy it. Now, if you're interested, if I can figure out where to do a chat, if you have any questions at all, if you want to just type out your message in there, I'd be happy to try and answer any questions that you might have. On my screen, the chat is at the top, and then I click on more and then chat. So I'm not sure if you can see that or not. The question is, are the bacteria products cattle safe? Yes. So the products that we promote or sell are safe for people, pets, fish. They're naturally occurring in the environment anyway, so that they're there, and yeah, so it's safe to use it. In fact, we have a product called Stock Tank Defense that works incredibly well. People put it in their troughs, in their waterers for cattle. I actually have an elk farmer that they go through a ton of it, and I've been told by some of them that their livestock is actually a lot healthier. I have another question here. What is the cost of pond dye and the bacteria treatment? It ranges. Dye is around $54 or so for a 1 gallon jug. The bacteria starts at about well, it starts at $130. We have some really good sales on our online store. It's pondsupply.ca. We have some bundles on there, and there's some really great discounts right now. So it works out to about, I think it's 115 for a package, for the smaller packages. But you can kind of mix and match your sizes. So anywhere from, you know, 100 to $200, depending on the size that you need. What surface area per fine bubble aerator? So when you're sizing your aeration system, it depends on the depth of water that you have. So deeper water is actually easier to treat or easier to aerate because you have a bigger cone that comes up and bigger circulation. And if it's shallower, then we need more plates actually. So, but I can help you with sizing your unit for your body of water. I just need to know the square footage, which I can measure from Google Earth, and then the depth of it, and we can work out how many plates that you need on that body of water. The cattle trough water product is called Stock Tank Defense, and it's just a little bacteria pellet that you can put into your tanks, and it just cleans up all that the slime that gets in there and the algae, and it works really, really well. Okay, so are there any other questions at all? If not, I'm really happy that you joined us tonight. If you have any questions at all about your dugout or how to proceed with treatment or anything like that, I'm more than happy to chat with you. I love talking about water, and I really thank you for joining me tonight. Oh, there's one more question here, or a couple more questions. How do you stop weeds from growing? Is muck away the only and best way to? Okay, So when you have muck in your pond, it will result in your weeds. So the best way is to use the beneficial bacteria, the pelleted form of which is called muck away. Aeration is also an important part of it as well. You don't necessarily have to have the aeration in there, but anytime that you have aeration, it's like giving Red Bull to the bacteria so it can work faster and better. So when you have aeration in there, it brings oxygen down to the bottom where your muck away is working, and it just speeds it up. There's one other question here about solar powered aeration pumps. Yes, we do have a few. They're more suited for the shallower water, but yeah, we do have aeration or actual solar systems, and we can also put a solar panel on the other systems that we use quite often as well. There's a question here, if we ship into Ontario? Yes, you bet. We ship coast to coast. I actually have clients from all across Canada that we ship to. And when you purchase from us, the shipping is included in the price. We have free shipping. Okay. Well, this has been great. I really enjoyed talking to you guys and answering your questions. So I guess I'll leave it at that, and send me an email and I'll be happy to send out that guide to you. And enjoy this lovely weather and the rest of your evening.